What is up, everybody? So today we have some really cool, huge news for Final Fantasy VII Remake. I don't even know if I should even call Final Fantasy VII Remake Part 2 anymore, because basically Square Enix has bought up a couple trademarks that kind of point towards Remake in some ways. Now, one of the trademarks that they have basically bought out was Ever Crisis. Now, Ever Crisis really seems like it's something that would tie in with Crisis Core, and we're going to get into that in a little bit. But the second thing that they kind of bought was First Soldier. And of course, if you played Final Fantasy VII at all, actually the original mostly, you would be familiar with Soldier First Class. Like, that is like one of the first things you actually hear in the game. I believe, especially in Remake, they do joke around. Barrett and Cloud do joke around about First Class and stuff like that. But with these being bought up, that means they're trying to use these trademarks, you know, like these names. So, Crisis Core, of course, is a PSP title that released years ago, and that the main protagonist of that was actually Zack. And Zack, that game was actually pretty cool. I've actually never beaten it on the PSP, and I'm having an idea that if they don't make a remake to Crisis Core, I feel like Crisis Core would just be blended into Remake itself. And they're going to tie in all of the stories that need to be tied into the actual game as one, instead of splitting the titles up like how we had Final Fantasy VII, and then we had Final Fantasy VII Crisis Core, and so on. So I feel like if they're going to do a remake, they're just going to blend all of it together. So if we get, say, Final Fantasy VII Remake 2, it might be called Final Fantasy VII Ever Crisis, or maybe they might keep the remake in there. It might say Final Fantasy VII Remake Ever Crisis. They might not even use it at all. We don't even know yet. We actually don't even know. People, like, not people, but companies do buy up trademarks, and sometimes they don't even sometimes use them. So we don't know yet. I'm really excited though, because when I read that Ever Crisis was one of the titles that they basically trademarked, I kind of got hope that there would be a tie-in to Crisis Core, which we're already getting that anyway. When you beat Final Fantasy VII Remake, you basically got a lot of stuff with Zack, and I thought that was really cool, and I thought that was a good thing that they tied in there. Now, First Soldier is where it gets a little weird. So maybe they're planning on making a 3-installment game. I did hear around that there was going to possibly be just 2 games, but we're only at the end of Midgar in the first game, and there's so much more to explore. The original game is a huge game, a lot of places to go to, so I don't know what it could be. So we might get a Final Fantasy VII Ever Crisis, and then maybe First Soldier, because technically the First Soldier would be Sephiroth. So if you're going to like do that, like, kind of names in order, I would assume that you would take, like, since you're fighting Sephiroth at the end of 7, that title would probably be better in the last game. So Final Fantasy VII First Soldier, if they even use that. But I don't know. I want to know what you guys think in the comments down below. Do you guys, have you guys heard of this news? And do you guys think that these are fit names for titles for the next installments in the remake? Or do you guys think that this is actually titles for sub games that they do. This is Tetsuya Nomura here, okay? We don't have a Kingdom Hearts game without something in between it. We never do. Like right now we had 3, but then we had Melody and Memory before 4. There's always an in-between game. So who knows, they might possibly have something thrown out in the middle of the pieces of Remake. I hope they don't do it that way. Kingdom Hearts is fine. I understand how they do Kingdom Hearts. That's fine. I expect it with Kingdom Hearts. But I don't expect them to do that with the Remake. They did pieces here and there with 7, but that's because people wanted more 7, and it was already out at that point. So they ended up giving us Crisis Core. And I think there was a Before Crisis phone game as well. That was I heard the story was pretty good, but the gameplay kind of sucked ass. So I don't know what to do there. But I want to know what you guys think in the comments down below. Remember to leave this video a huge like, subscribe if you haven't already. If you want to join the Wayfinders Union Cross groups, you can hit us up by hitting the Discord link down below to the Wayfinders Discord. Once you are in there, we can set you up in one of our groups, and if you don't play Union Cross, that's fine. You can still join, make friends, and talk about Final Fantasy and Kingdom Hearts there. If you want to follow me on Instagram, you can just look me up at WayFinder, and I should pop up. I post a lot of Kingdom Hearts content with regular content, my YouTube content, and I'll also put polls up for you guys to vote on future, just future content in general. So if that's something that you want to take part in, go ahead and give me a follow over there. But as always, thank you guys for watching, and let your hearts be your guiding keys.